Hey, it's Chris. What are we talking about today? Rebellion Unplugged Joyride, but not this Joyride, because we're actually talking about this Joyride, Full Throttle, standalone sequel expansion in the racing vibe. What do you need to know? Is it right for you? What's new? What's different? And which one is right for you? Let's freaking go. Here we are, going full throttle, because this is a racing game now, not only 2 to 4 players with a dice-driven lock 'em or lose 'em mechanic. You are now actually going to be able to play this with full throttle up to 5 and 6 players, giving you not only the 2 versus 2 mode that you may have preferred in the base game, but now a 2 versus 2 versus 2. That is among the changes and modifications with this new standalone expansion. If you're not familiar with Joyride in the first place, what we've got going on here in front of me is a wooden car driven hex-based race through numbered checkpoints in order to be the first one to complete a certain number of laps. We have a double-sided board that is hex-based that is also going to be giving you pre-selected setups of 10 different race courses using the obstacles, terrains, items, and the best part about this expansion as a whole, frickin' portals, to give you 20 different ways of playing this before you even maybe want to dabble on your own. But the first point that we have to talk about is, how is this different from other racing games? This is primarily a dice-driven race game with a slightly different steering mechanic, in the sense that roll dice, change one direction this way, and then plow forward until you maybe can't or get stopped by something else. But it does give you the adaptation to potentially do that twice in a single turn, but carefully, and then that goes into the locking of the dice, which are subsequently then at your disposal later on. So as you can see here, this is the turn sequence that I was just alluding to. The usable dice at the beginning of your turn are on your mirror. If you lock any, those values stay there and move that distance immediately. You can't reverse, but you do get the little one change steering, one hex-wise, one direction or the other. Then you get the ability to shift, and that's going to give you gears as well as those dice that we mentioned. Roll everything else that you got left and move the remaining distance. But you have the ability to steer twice, only if you're in gear 2 though. Then return all of your dice, rinse and repeat. And this takes a Mario Kart meets Mad Max style to the racing dynamic, in case that's not clear. And what I mean by that is each of these unique player boards here are going to come with asymmetric powers if you so choose and are so daring in the first place, because you can start with symmetric ones, but that wouldn't be any fun if you couldn't throw ketchup on other people's cars or turn all items into terrain blowing up objects that can be launched from your vehicle in the first place. Because each of them comes with 3 that you may decide to use on a turn-by-turn basis. And why that matters is that provides the other ketchup mechanic. Ketchup, not ketchup, like we were just saying, right? In the sense that once you use these, they are done. But you can recharge them if you cross that lap finish line and there's other people in front of you. So then you get them back. And things like, well, treating one of your values of dice of 0. Chris, why would I want a 0 movement? Because otherwise you run into stuff, you take damage, and bad stuff happens. Edit that out, right? Photo op, when using the engine braking, well, normally I would take damage, but instead I can pivot. We'll talk about pivot because that is a very important aspect of this in a second. And sponsored content. Get 2 random items, keep one and discard the other. But how you navigate between the locked dice as well as the unlocked into the mirror dice on a turn-by-turn basis is going to determine exactly how far you're moving, which ones are available, and how much press your luck you enjoy from a racing game. Because you may lock certain ones up, but then the rolling of other ones in terms of determining how far you're going to go may both benefit you to outrace and out-prepare your opponents, but it may also cause you to go too far, which is the flip side of the damage that is allocated on your player board in the first place, which destroys not only the awesome item spots that you may be acquiring, the additional lock spaces, which is going to give you that fine-tuned control to go along with the additional gears, because gears are the essential how many dice you are at your disposal on a turn-by-turn basis. And so the more of the gear, the more of the dice. And why would you do that, Chris, if we've already said that steering is very tenuous in the first place? It's a minor rather than a major. The major being the oomph forward, the minor being the ability to navigate left and right. Well, that's because higher gear also means higher initiative. In a race-based game where the first person to cross that final finish line wins. This is not everybody gets equal turns. You go until you win. And so that is the other dynamic. This is going to be a press your luck, roll the dice, try and mitigate as much as you can. So what's new in Full Throttle? But what we're talking about here now is the main mechanistic change or addition, if you will. You still do all of the stuff if you're familiar with the base game in the first place. But the pivot mechanic is, well, very important. We won't say pivotal because that would be a bad pun, and I'm not known for that on my channel, doing bad puns. It is very important because not only then can you do the normal steering of the turning of the front part of the car by one, but now you can turn the back part of the car as well in a pivot mechanic. And all of the 6 new racers in this game incorporate that mechanic into their abilities. So that differs already from the original base game. You are getting more of these loot items that are going to be available to you. The dumbbell, the thumper, the wrench, the marbles, the volley bomb. Yes, the frickin' volley bomb. Because the first time it hits something, you may again fire it in any direction from that space to make it explode again. And of course, what racing game would not be complete without more nitro to blow up if you roll the wrong thing as well? Haha, a little Fast and the Furious there. But what else do we have going on? Well, I alluded to the best part of this expansion earlier. So in case it's not clear, in order to do these laps that I mentioned, there are going to be numbered checkpoints out on the board, and you need to go between them in order, and then the final to get a lap done. And so that is what you're going to be doing to gain those items, to avoid the terrain popping up and the items played like the marbles. Because, I mean, what racing game also isn't complete with a Macaulay Culkin style Home Alone marble throwing, laying, slipping contest in the first place? But now we have the best part are these little doohickeys, because they're portals. Land in the portal, go to another portal on the map, because they're going to be spread out in order to high risk, high reward, cut corners, both literally and potentially figuratively in that way. But the other Mad Max style thing here is that not only can you send your car through the portals, wink wink, you can also send your items. You can shoot things through the freaking portals, which means, oh, you can rain fire from afar. And that's what this game is truly about. It is not a mechanical masterpiece of technical drawing and playing and maneuvering of the strategic Euro style vibe. It is not a deck building, shuffling, resource management aspect like some of its compatriots. Now, this thing is dice rolling, press your luck, screw the other people over, and last one standing demolition derby style in the first place wins. But also, crossing the finish line alive is also very, very important. Well, as the main win condition. Now, the 2 versus 2 mode is a lot of people's preferred addition and mode in the original, because there can be some experience differencing in terms of who is able to master this steer mechanic, because it is a little unintuitive with the locking of the dice and then using the other dice, and then the potential steering, but maybe not getting to steer again, and then screwing yourself and flying off the side of the board potentially, because that is by far and away the most tricky dynamic that we are not used to in a racing aspect of the control that is lost with this mechanical approach. However, this sequel, if you did not like the original, stays tried and true to that, and the team mode gives some mitigation if you're not familiar, because it's just one person crossing the finish line from your team first. So the other person is left to their own devices and can just snipe and Wiz War style blast across the terrain in order to take the other people out. So it's a little bit of screw you, take that directly. And that's the core of this game in a nutshell, is this is not a pure racing enthusiast's perfection Euro in a cardboard case. This is the Amerithrasher's Amerithrash Mario Kart, if you will. And the items, as well as the portals and the terrain setup and the maps that are variable here, are just more of the same. It is completely compatible, so you can mix and match. What else is new? Well, if you're backing it, they're going to give you deluxeified shaded miniatures. And in case you don't like flimsy cardboard, they'll replace that with upgraded tokens too. The terrain is slightly different. The maps are different. This is a variable expansion that stands on its own, but is going to be best for those that want to play it at higher player counts. So what are some potential downsides to this? Well, you're going to have different loot items. These loot items might fit you better. The abilities that are all asymmetric in the 6 new characters, which is more than what the original base game has of 4, I think these are better. I think these are better. It shows definite maturity in a design element to offer some craziness, but in a different way. Now, on the flip side of things, I don't like these loots as much as I do the ones in the base game. And again, that's my own personal preference of them more than anything else. But the variety that this offers, as well as the portals, you know, it kind of balances things out. So, you know, you can kind of pick and choose which one might be better for you, especially if you're looking at the higher player counts as well, in terms of who this is right for, as well, like we were just talking about, the mechanistic differences between this and its compatriots of the racing steadfast that have been released in the past yonder years as well. So, like I said, if you're looking for something drastically different, if you're looking for this to reinvent the expansion or the content that it came out with originally, no, it stays tried and true to what the original does, with enough twisting to make you go, I can easily own either of these. And if you love the game enough to get the loot and the abilities to make you have just even more plethora of variety in the first place, in a, I have too much expansion, but I love it, so I could buy it anyway. If you're me, you have Bullet and Marvel United of the same ilk. So this does a well-encompassing of that is going to feel like the same experience, but an actual different actuality of when you're utilizing the cars, the abilities, and the maneuvering on the map, with the slight pivot portal upgrade that this provides. So it's a great entry point, but it does just enough for me to say it stays away from the trope of replacing the original completely that we will often see nowadays on the tabletop side of things. But I will also say you could probably easily feel complete owning one or the other, and getting a few expansions along the way, especially with, comparatively, usually speaking, the base game price significantly higher than the expansion content, when maybe you just want some more of the abilities or the loot that some of those individual boxed expansions will provide without all of the overhead, sort of like deciding how you want to Aeon's End style your content, if you're familiar with that deck builder, where many of the games are standalone, but they do have a fair number of small box expansions which offer the meat and bones of what people love about it in the first place, and this is very much the same in that comparison. So in the end, this is still a brutal, take that destructive, random-driven Mad Max experience with a Mario Kart, I'm going to take you out revenge-style vibe. So if you take yourself seriously as a racer and a mechanical strategist, you will not like this game. But if you are looking for an experience and you can wrap your mind around the slightly strange, in the sense that we are not used to the maneuvering, steering of this in comparative games as well, it sets out what it's trying to accomplish in the first place, which is why people have enjoyed it and now are potentially coming back for more. So there you go. That's Joyride Full Throttle. Comments, questions, concerns down below. Hit me up in the deets. Subscribe if you like it. Peace out. Stay classy.